Melissa McDermott. I'm the business strategist here at the Chicago Bears.
Hi, my name is Pooja Van Dyke. I'm the director of digital media.
I'm Mary Ellen Martis. I'm an assistant athletic trainer with the club.
Hi, I'm Allie Sayers. I am in our football communications department.
Hi, I'm Mallory Sanders. I'm our manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Real quick, y'all, I don't think I know y'all's stories. Like, how did y'all even get into sports?
I did, some internships in college, right, and kind of dabbled into both marketing and sports, and then really wanted to pursue that passion, right, that we all have for sports after college. And like a lot of us here, I started at the bottom as a seasonal, right, as an intern, and just put the hard work in to work up, and still here many, many years later.
I grew up in a family where sports was everything. Growing up in the city of Chicago, obviously sports is Mecca. Went to the Ohio State University and through a South Asian Journalism Association program that I was a part of, I was introduced to a really great recruiter at my previous employer, and they introduced me to my first job in sports, and here I am about a little under 20 years later.
So when I went to college, I got involved with the University of Illinois football team. Loved it, loved every second of it. I knew I wanted to work at the NFL level because this is the pinnacle of sports. I would go on the websites and not see a ton of female athletic trainers, but I was like, I'm going to try anyways, and basically just refused to take no for an answer, and it all kind of worked out.
Yeah.
So when I started, I thought I was going to be Mary Ellen, which is now funny because I am not through that. I kind of pivoted to PR, which obviously completely different now, but I ended up interning with University of Colorado's athletic department while I was there, so gained a lot of great experience there, loved every second of that as well, and then wanted to continue that, so ended up at Northwestern in their MSA program. So interned there for a little bit as well. That's kind of where I narrowed down my focus to sports communications, and that turned into a seasonal role here. So I was really lucky to be a part of our seasonal program last year, and then now I'm here full time. Yeah.
I feel like the oddball out. I did not know I wanted to be in sports at all. I went into teaching. Like, I was like, I'm going to teach for a while. I'm going to figure out, what exactly I wanted to do. Going to Clemson, obviously it being a very big football school, love sports, love football, all those things. And so I was really lucky to get a job at the Vikings, where I had a phenomenal boss and a phenomenal mentor, honestly, that worked so hard with me to make sure that I knew my strengths. So I think all of y'all talked about like finding your strengths and your passion. She helped me find my strengths, so that I was able to now be here with the Bears. But no, I think my mentor was such a huge part of me getting to where I am today.
Like you talk about mentorship and how important it is, and for me it even goes past that. Like, I have a crew of women that we started, like our first job in sports, right? Like professional sports. We're still friends to this day, almost 20 years later. And you talk about like empowering people and having people in your corner, and just having people that support you, whether they're going through a tough time, right, themselves, or people you trust and just bounce ideas off of, right, and just lift you up. And sometimes it's therapeutic to know that they're going maybe through some of the same challenges, right, that we face, either as a female in sports, it's just, working for, a team, and in professional sports, the challenges we have. And it's just awesome to find your people, right, that whether it's a mentor or a group of people, but I've been lucky enough to have that, and just something I'll always lean on them as I go through the rest of my career, for sure.
I think it's so powerful having those mentors that will support you, and I truly don't think without the mentorship that I've received here, I would be able to do what I'm doing on a daily basis. Like, it's a high demand, like the job is demanding, and having those people to fall back on and support you and help you and know when you kind of need a little extra. So I definitely think the mentorship aspect in the sports industry is.
And I feel like mentorship as a whole, like, it can really evolve as you grow in your career.
Sure.
I think like when I started off in my career, I was really leaning into like what job I wanted, like what did I want to do. But then later in my career, it really evolved to like who I wanted to be. Like, first it was like job function, how did I want to contribute to the sports industry? And like later on in my career, it really evolved to like, wait, how do I want to operate business, and who do I admire to, really look up to really learn from, and how do I want to lead? And I think that takes time and experience to just get to that point. But really what I lean into now is, what you do is not what defines you, it's really who you are and how you lead. So mentorship has played a big role in that. And unlike you, Melissa, like I have not had the same mentor throughout my whole career. I've had several different people and different aspects of my career, but also equally as important and impactful to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think mentorship has a huge role to play in who you are as a person, and I'm fortunate enough that my mentor from grad school is one of my coworkers now, and so yeah, it's been awesome to get to continue to learn from him. And kind of what Allie was saying, you can learn a lot from your male mentors as well. And I never really had a female mentor in the football athletic training scope, but I was always kind of approaching that as well. I'm going to try to be that person for any women that work under me, because it's a lot of trial and error when you don't have someone to be like, hey, this is the dress code, but I don't really know what's the female equivalent for that? I don't know, and you kind of have to, the little things like that they just don't, know how to answer. And so I think the more we can be an example or even leading and mentoring by not even realizing it.
But what are just some ways that y'all try to empower some other women in some ways, like in the sports industry?
Especially as women in sports, if you can't foster like a sense of belonging or have that sense of like your contributions are valued, then you don't feel like you belong. And when a workplace, doesn't employ people that look like you, or your gender or your skin, color, like whatever it is, like if they don't foster that environment, you're just naturally not going to feel like you belong. So in order to create that space, it's really important to generate inclusivity and open doors and creating space at the table, leaning into new opportunities and new voices and providing perspective to really create that like sense of belonging.
Yeah, one thing that you said that kind of resonated with me was, having a seat at the table for people. I think one thing, I don't know if maybe anybody else has struggled with this, but I always haven't been perfect at this. When there's so many female spots or whatever, not a lot of opportunities for females, it can tend to become a competition, trying to compete with other females for these spots. And then I kind of came to the realization of like, okay, or there's a phrase of, why fight each other for a seat at the table when we should be building a bigger table, kind of a thing. And so I think that's simple. I'm not always the best at it, but I think it's it's something that I think we need to push for. And maybe I don't really know what that looks like. But I think it's something to continue to strive for.
Being here, you talk about being at the table, Mary Ellen. I'm sure all of us have been at some point. We're the only female at the table, right? And that can be intimidating. It was for me in my younger career. I spent most of my career in corporate partnerships, and I'm sitting across from big executives, right? And I'm the only female at the table. I know that the person across from me maybe thinks I don't have the right experience. I know the person across from me maybe doesn't think I have the knowledge about football or sports. 5-time fantasy football champion. Just gonna throw that out.
There you go.
Just gonna throw that out.
That is
But
fun.
again, that just fueled me to go further, to keep learning.
Microaggressions is a real thing. Being the only woman in a room and you say an idea and it's not heard and it falls on deaf ears, or a male counterpart saying the same idea and all of a sudden it's celebrated. That's happened in my career so many different times, but you're right, like some of that really can fuel a certain type of person. It fueled me.
Yeah, I think I was always afraid, being the only female, that I would change the dynamic, because sometimes, maybe in a negative way, you kind of make people act differently because there's a female around. And then I think I started to realize, that might be a good thing. It could give a different perspective. It could make a more dynamic conversation. Sometimes they'll come to me with like, what's the female perspective on this, things like that. And I think also sometimes as females, by society, we're taught to play small, to not take up too much of that space, to not be too loud, to not be too obnoxious, to not be too domineering, all of these things. This type of environment encourages us to be those things, which then can translate into the world itself and who we are as people. I try to start my day with a workout to kind of have some time for myself. And then after that, specific to my job, I try to prepare for what's on the schedule that day. So when we have rehabs, I'll look at every single player that we have, what's coming in, and making sure that I understand the goal for that day for each player, what they have, what we need to get done that day. And then we also talk about it as a staff. And then as far as games go, I mean, obviously that's a whole other beast. But, we do get the really cool opportunity of being with the players the first 4 hours or so before the game, where we are with them prepping their bodies, getting them taped, braced, all of that, ready for the game. I think that kind of helps us as well to mentally prepare for, what we're about to do. And then we have little sub meetings and things that go along with all of that. But I think a lot of it is just that preparation beforehand of knowing, okay, this is what the day is going to hold. Let me kind of have the goals and strategies in mind so that, as the day is unfolding, I kind of have a North Star of what I need to do.
But kind of going back to those non-negotiables each morning, I will find a way to either listen to a podcast on the way in or take a little walk, even if I'm just aimlessly walking. If we're on the road and I'm walking up and down the street for a little bit before a game, that kind of stuff. But I think really kind of focusing on yourself first and taking care of yourself. And then after that, I'm looking at what I need to do that day and kind of trying to plan out, okay, if I get this done by this time. And I think just building off of that and also talking to my teammates and going off that, then maybe somebody else takes something off my plate if I have more going on. So I think initially just taking care of yourself is the first part of every day. And then after that, the rest of your day just kind of goes from there.
For me, part of my routine is really inspiration seeking. Before I start my day, it's looking at what other sport teams have done or other networks have done, or it doesn't even have to be sports related. How do people storytell in unique ways? Yeah. How are people cutting the clutter and staying really close to marketplace trends? And really using them as a source of inspiration to do something different here at the Bears. And really, that's really what inspires me is just an NFL season is an NFL season. There's the off season, there's the in season, there are all the tent poles, we are doing we're covering the same stuff year after year. It's really how we tell these stories that we have to continue to refresh year after year that makes it feel like we're pushing forward and we're progressing in how we storytell.
Well, how I prepare in the morning is caffeine. That's the number one priority. Yes, that is the first way that I prepare.
So
is
true.
Caffeine, mom life. So 100% is caffeine fueled. Then next, I come in the office and, for me, I'm a big list person, right? I like to organize my day, but also look kind of longer term. I live and die by my calendar, what is coming up, what's coming up in a couple months.
Are you type A?
Yeah, sure we all are, just, a little bit. And for me, in strategy and analytics, I'm starting kind of a new arm of the department, and it's been really exciting because there isn't a blueprint for it, right? So for me, I've been able to build it, with my boss and my team on, where the Bears going here in the future, what could that look like? How do we help set every department up with the right tools and data they need to make those decisions as we're looking long term, and that's one of, my big goals is just to, how do we long-term plan better to reach our fans? Who is that next group of fans, right? Because again, looking forward to the future, we've got a lot of exciting things on the horizon, whether it's on or off the field. And again, it's just exciting to think where we could be in 5 years, where we could be in 10 years. And again, I hope we're sitting here in another 10 years talking about, remember when we sat down, 10 years ago, and those were the issues we were talking about, right?
And all our championships.
Exactly, absolutely. So, but yeah, it's exciting to think of the future.
So my preparation for work is really just kind of like what you said, Pooja, innovation. There's not a lot of DEI initiatives going around throughout the NFL or in sports in general. So it's what are folks doing that we can make fit our club, or what are the different trends just in DEI in general that's going on right now? Where are we at on the pulse of our culture as far as inclusivity, having different conversations with our different employees, seeing, how are you feeling about your team? How are you feeling about the culture? What are some things that are top of mind and priority for you? Or collaborating with, I've collaborated probably almost all of your departments at this point. So a lot of working with other departments and seeing, how can I support you? What is an inclusivity problem that you're having? What is a policy that you think if that was changed might be able to help you be more productive or more successful or make your team feel like they belong here more? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest goals of my job is wanting to create a culture of belonging, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Pooja, making sure everybody, regardless of if they're a woman in a male-dominated space, as people like to say, or regardless of, what they look like, what their background is, any of that, we want this to be a place where they feel like they belong and we feel included. It's obviously a hard job, because there's a lot of different things that go into that. But I think it takes a lot of me having to know what's going on in DEI in general, so staying up to date on just the different trends, but also what's going on within our industry and sports specific, and what are the different ways that we can celebrate our fans that are from diverse backgrounds. What are the different ways that we can uplift our employees, like we're doing right now with this panel, and sharing these stories that we have, and just different things that we can do to make sure everybody feels included. What is like the biggest advice you would give a woman that came to you that was like, I want to get into sports and I don't know where to start and I don't know what to expect?
I mean, I think my biggest advice is don't assume you won't like a certain area of the business. And I think a lot of entry-level jobs, some people look at them and say, I don't know if I'd like to go into that, or I think I'd be better fit in this. When you're starting off in your career, I think it's great to get just a broad range of experience, and you never know, you might actually love it, right? And fall into it, you kind of stumble into it, and that's where you start your career and end your career. And then also too, it's the other way too, you're just like, you know what, okay, that wasn't perfect for me. I've had plenty of people come through my career that maybe they're like, this wasn't a perfect fit for me, but I really learned I liked this part of the business. How can you help me get into that area? Again, like has different experience and wants different things out of their career, and they learn, a little self-discovery too, and you just won't know until you try it. So I just tell people, don't be scared, don't look at the job title or the department, and just put yourself in it, make yourself indispensable to that company, and guaranteed you will be on a path at that company, because whether or not you're a perfect fit for that position, you might be the perfect fit for a different position.
Yeah, I really liked what you said there, Melissa, because I think it's important for me, and especially just like basing it off of where I've been to where I am now, is it's really important for future generations of women in sports to know that they don't have to shatter glass ceilings to be recognized or be uplifted. They should be well received and uplifted upon arriving at any organization. Times have really changed, and that perspective is really important. And I feel like diversity, we hear diversity of thought and the importance of that. It's so important now, and new perspective and unique perspective is way more impactful in the long run than being like-minded. So it's just so important to understand that bringing your authentic self is your most important, tool that you have.
Yeah, I think two things resonate with me that I learned maybe the hard way was that success doesn't always look like a straight line. Yeah. You might have to take a job that you didn't, like you said, like you weren't so sure about, and in the eventual goal of getting to where you want to be. And so I think it's okay to know that maybe you might mess up or not get the opportunity to do something, but when one door closes, another one opens, kind of a situation. So that was one. And then that you need to learn to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. My boss, Andre, always says, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that is how you learn, that's how you grow.
And I love that.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. I mean, I don't like to be uncomfortable, I like to be comfortable. But I also know that, comfortable is not where I grow. And that's not where I reach my goals, and that's not how I get better.
I think for me, I have three things. One, be confident. You are either applying for the position, interviewing for the position, kind of like what you said. Like, even if the job description looks scary, like, be confident in yourself that you're able to go in and do something there. Number two, be humble and willing to work. I think that's a big thing, especially like in this industry. Like, like put your head down, work. Doesn't mean that you have to, be quiet by any means, but be ready to work your butt off. And then third, also just be yourself. I think it's a big thing. I think a lot of times, like trying to mold to fit in is not necessarily the best thing. I think being yourself will take you very, very far in this industry.
Especially, I feel like sometimes folks feel afraid to be themselves because they want to fit the mold, because they've seen so many people that fit the same mold. They're like, I have to do that to get there, and it's like, no, you can be yourself and be just as successful,
if not more.
Exactly. I have three last things. One, don't be afraid to take the leap. I feel like is one of mine. Like, I moved halfway across the country to a city I never had been to before and was like, I'm gonna take this sports job. So don't be afraid to take the leap. Two, like really focus on your soft skills. I feel like a lot of the folks that within our organization, no matter where they're at, they have great leadership skills. They have that confidence. They know how to be humble. They have all of these different things. They have emotional intelligence. They know how to collaborate. They have all these soft skills that make them amazing, not just employees, but leaders. And I feel like that's what really takes you to the next step within your career. And the last thing I would say to somebody is not always what you know, and it's not even who you know, but it's like who knows you. So don't be afraid to go out there and network. Don't be afraid to go out there and meet people. My boss I have now, I met her 9 months before she even became my boss, and now I get to see her every day, and it's wonderful.
It's a small world.
It's a small world. It really, the industry is small. The industry is so small, and you can't be afraid to go out there and, you know, get to meet people.